One of my favorite items to decorate with for Christmas are pine cones, and you can pick them up at the store or you can just find them outside. For this next project, I'm going to be using a combination of ones that I already had from outside and ones that I bought at the store. I'm also going to be using this block that was just a scrap block for me. The size of it was 4 by 4 by 4. I want to create a pine cone tree. So in order to do that, I'm going to drill a hole into my wood block. And I'm also going to be using a 1-inch circular dowel rod. I'm going to add in hot glue just to really secure that dowel rod in place. I'm going to stain this piece with a dark wood stain. You could definitely go lighter or paint it or whatever you like. I'll let this sit overnight. Now the next day when I came back, it was time to add the pine cones. Now for this project, you're gonna need a variety of pine cones. You're gonna need some smaller ones, some larger ones. I also had these ones that I had found around my house that were longer. Those actually worked perfect for the base of this. So I'm gonna start by placing the longer pine cones about, I would say about 4 inches up from the bottom on my dowel rod. Really, I kind of didn't know how this was gonna work out, but I added a bunch of hot glue and held these in place. Now for your bottom 4 pine cones, you're gonna have to really kind of hold these in place for a while until they have a chance to set. I added about 8 pine cones and I noticed that it wasn't super secure. So I decided I'm gonna add a little bit more hot glue and I'm gonna let this sit for 15 minutes to really harden and let my base form. After about 15 minutes, I felt like that strategy worked really well because my base was really formed and I was able to keep adding additional pine cones. After you get your base on, you really want to start thinking about the shape of your tree. So as I was adding in different pine cones, I was really trying to make that cone shape by adding in the different levels. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to do your best to kind of just make that shape as you're going up. I also added 1 pine cone to the top of my dowel rod. I noticed that after I was putting on the top pine cones, I had several gaps. So I came back in with several smaller pine cones and added those in where I felt like I needed a little bit more pine cones and to fill in the shape. This next step I was really hesitant to do because I liked the look of it. I loved all the different colors, but I wanted to add some paint to it. So I started on the back because I figured if I didn't like it, I could always just not paint the front and it would still look great. But I did end up liking this. So I used an ivory paint. It was just a sample paint I had on hand, and I just used a foam brush to paint on the outside layers of it. I also decided to paint the base layer and my stem a little bit as well. I wanted to give it a little bit of sparkle, so I added some Mod Podge to the base and the stem. I also wanted to cover up some of the glue that had fallen down as I was putting my pine cones on, and I just added some faux snow around the base as well. This is definitely my favorite project in this video. I love how it turned out. I would love to see your guys' recreations if you make this. You could definitely show it off in our Facebook group. If you're not a member of our Facebook group, it's a great community where you can share your DIY, so you definitely want to go join. And here's a final look at how my pine cone tree turned out. I always like a snowflake, and if you don't like what's on it, you can always paint it, change it up. This one is all is bright, and there's also one that says let it snow. It's cold outside. So I found this pack of napkins off of Amazon, and I picked them up thinking that they may work for a DIY. So I'm gonna try it with this snowflake. So I'm gonna figure out where on this napkin I want to add to my snowflake, and then I'm gonna position it on top of it. Next, I'm going to cut off the excess. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the top of my ornament. And then I'm going to place the napkin on top. I really wanted that peacock to show through, so I kind of tried to position it so you could see the whole peacock. I cut off the excess pieces of the napkin, and then I cut slits into the napkin. Next, I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the edges and try to press it down to hold it in place. I kind of used my foam brush as well to kind of hold everything in place. Once it had a chance to dry, I put a coat of Mod Podge over the top and let that completely dry. Now looking back on it, it did show that craft wood through a little bit. I think if I was to do it again, I would probably spray paint the ornament white before I added on the napkin. When I saw this berry garland on Pottery Barn's website, I thought I can recreate this, and it's super easy to do. So from Dollar Tree, you want to pick up a pack of photo hangers. You're also going to get 2 berry garlands. They sell the exact same thing at Dollar Tree. To do this DIY, I'm going to take out all the clothespins. And I'm going to start by spraying these with 2 coats of a red spray paint. I'll flip the clothespins around to make sure I completely cover them with red spray paint. Because my berries were a little bit deeper of a red color, I wanted to kind of mute the red. So I'm going to be using my black Rub and Buff, and I'm just going to lightly brush that around the clothespins with a foam brush. I pulled off a really large piece of twine, and then I'm gonna fold the twine and find the middle. I'm also going to open up each of my berry packs, and I'm going to put them out so they lay flat on my twine. Next, real simple, all you want to do is start twisting your 2 berry garlands and your twine up. You don't have to really twist them really crazy or anything, just lightly twist them so everything is combined. From there, I'm gonna add the clothespins on, and you can hang this on your fireplace, and you can use this to hang up all of your holiday cards. You guys know I love painting these soaps to make them look a little bit more high end. So I'm gonna start by putting some painter's tape over the Christmas tree portion. I'm also going to take out the stopper on the top portion. And I'm gonna spray the base with a mirror metallic spray paint. I had a little bit of trouble with the lid. I couldn't find something that would hold it in place, but eventually I just kind of used a lid to spray it black. I added the piece that goes on the bottom of the lid and put it back into my soap. This is a festive soap that you can put out in your kitchen or bathroom.
We definitely have to do a wreath for Christmas.
So for a wreath, I'm just gonna be using the outer wreath form. I also picked up some inexpensive greenery from Hobby Lobby. Now I'm gonna start by positioning my greenery on one side. I'm gonna do that by wrapping the base around my wreath form, and then I'll just kind of move around the branches until I like the way they look. I'm gonna repeat those steps on the other side by wrapping greenery on the other side, really making sure to get that base twisted around my wreath form. I'm going to add some additional hot glue at the top on the back to hold that greenery in place. Now recently I bought these adorable bells off of Amazon. They come in a pack of 10. I'll link them for you down in the description box, but I thought they would look so nice on a wreath form. So what I'm gonna do is just grab some twine out of my stash, and I'm going to tie one of the bells to the center portion where I have the greenery meeting at the center. I'm gonna wrap some twine attaching the bell to the center portion of my wreath. Now with 2 other bells, I wanted to add those as well, but I wanted them to be a little bit shorter in height. So I just tied a knot in the existing twine, and I'm going to use some more twine to hold them in place by tying a knot next to that center one. So in total, I have 3 bells on my wreath form. One of the tips I like to do whenever I'm putting together a wreath is I actually like to hang it up, because I feel like I can see it a little bit better and see what it's going to look like when it's hung up. This is a great strategy to do to kind of decide, do you need to add more? Do you need to take away whenever you're creating a wreath? Once I took a step back, I wanted to move some of the branches around a little bit more. I also felt like I needed another greenery texture. So I went into my stash, found another stem that I already had on hand, and I'm just going to hot glue a few of those greenery pieces in place. You really don't need a lot of greenery for a wreath, just a couple pieces here and there to give it a little bit of texture. A rule of thumb is to use 3 different greenery types when you're making one wreath. It's gonna look so much more full. Even if you're sticking with the same color, it just gives it so much texture and variety. I added in a few pine cones with hot glue, and here's a look at how my wreath turned out. I love making homemade ornaments, especially ones that I can create with my kids. So this next one is a lot of fun. So I picked up these stars from Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna start by adding in some silver rub and buff with my foam brush to the top part of these stars. I'm not gonna completely cover it, just kind of put it on the edge and roughly put the silver on. I have this big pack of cinnamon sticks that I just use in different crafts. I tried to find 2 cinnamon sticks that matched up nicely together. I'm gonna hot glue 2 of the cinnamon sticks together. I'm gonna wrap some twine to the top and tie it in place. I'm also going to add some hot glue on the back, and this is going to serve as the hanger portion of my ornament. Next, I picked up some ribbon from Hobby Lobby, and you could use any ribbon, but I do suggest using a thin ribbon and maybe one that's green. I'm going to wrap around 3 different pieces onto my cinnamon stick. Once I wrap it around once, I'm gonna go back in and tie the knot so that the pieces lay nice and flat. From there, I'm going to cut the pieces so the top one is the smallest, then I have a middle one, and then the one at the bottom is the largest to mimic a Christmas tree. Next, I'll hot glue the star on, and these are adorable ornaments you could add to your tree.
Oh my gosh, they have them! You guys, I have been looking for these poinsettias. I'm so excited.
The reason I like these poinsettias is because I know I can make them look so much more high-end. So I'm going to be using 3 Dollar Tree pots for this DIY, and I wanted to give them more of an aged look. So I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that. I started by using a paper towel and water, and I'm going to dab it into some paints I already had on hand. I'm using a terracotta, a white. I actually went in with some blacks too. And I find whenever I'm doing this, I just kind of combine paints until I like the overall look of this. I feel like the terracotta color I used the most, with accents of white to kind of achieve the look I was going for. What I love about painting is it's all about personal preference. You can make them look however you would like them to look. Now I felt like the silver on the top of the poinsettias was a little bold for me, so I went in with some of my rub and buff and a foam brush just to kind of mute them down and give them a little bit more dimension and color. And then I placed the poinsettias into the pots. Here's a look at how they look all 3 together. I absolutely love them. Hey guys, I'm Liz and you're watching my second DIY channel where I post daily DIY videos. You may be familiar with my main channel, Liz Fenwick DIY, but I'm glad that you found me over here on my second channel. Make sure that you're subscribed so you just get notified every day when I post our daily DIY video.